It is really good to see you. This is Casey and I am One Mellow Marigold. The countdown has officially begun. We are exactly 25 days away from being on the farm. I can't function. I can't believe this is actually happening. I can't believe it's all happening so fast. And I can't believe how much stuff I have to do. Ah! Okay, but we're not freaking out. We're going to get a little stuff done every day. I'm going to bring you along on the countdown with me. So today we're doing garden planning and some seed ordering. And so I thought I would show you how I stay organized and what my plans for the farm garden are going to actually be. So I got my seeds all cute and newly organized. I got a bunch of seed catalogs. I have got my garden planning spreadsheet up. I'll turn the camera around and show you that in a little bit. And I'm gonna do a couple screenshots of Google Earth and actually show you the property. Wahoo! Okay, so a couple of points of context before we get started. First and foremost, the farm is going to be in the same zone that I am in now. So it's zone 5B. And I'm really actually counting on that to be pretty true to word because I'm assuming all my same planting timeframes are going to work out there as worked here. Hopefully I find that to be the case. Second, both the house and the farm and the garden are going to need a lot of work. So the house itself needs a fair amount of work to be livable. The farm, the pastures, the barn, all of that has been used, but it's been a couple years, so everything is super duper duper overgrown. I'm not going to be able to tackle everything this first year. I'm just not. So I'm going to try to remain very practical in terms of my gardening goals because I know that I've got both environments I'm going to have to work in. Third, the previous owner herself was also a gardener, which is great when you're buying a new property because you can sort of trust that that gardener, if she was successful, she put things where the sun would appropriately shine and let them grow. So I'm going to be able to use some of her clues where she did her growing to help me figure out the best places to put my kitchen garden. This year, I'm not intending on creating any big plantings inside the pasture areas or turning over any of that soil. I really think this year is probably just going to be cleaning up and rehabbing those pastures. I do think one day animals might be something that I will look at, you know, chickens, goats, something like that, but it's going to be a while. So I'm going to work on a kitchen garden and my goals are really going to be the same as they've been in the past year, which is I'm going to choose 2 focus plants and 1 experimental plant, and everything else I'm really just going to try to recreate there what I have got here. Yeah. Okay, so let's take a look at the property. This is the big view of the new property. You can kind of see where the trees outline the big rectangle, but the big rectangle is my 10 acres of farmland that I'm going to be moving to in 25 days. Holy cow. Okay, so I've got about 3 acres of property on one side of the road and 7 acres on the other side. For the time being, the 3 acres are just going to hang out and sit and be beautiful, and that is cool. For the 7 acres on the other side, you can see the house, the barn, and the stables all here in sort of the center lower portion of the property. And then the vast majority of this property is pasture land. Now, very overgrown pasture land, but pasture land none the same. They used to have both small animals, goats, sheep, that kind of stuff, and also large animals, cows, horses, what have you. And so the large animals had one pasture, the small animals had another pasture, but I think it's probably been a year or two at least since they have had any sort of animal on this property. So there's tons and tons of space and potential in that pasture land, but I'm not going to tackle it all this year. That is for sure. I want to live on the property. I want to see how the property feels. I want to see how the sun works. I really want to get to know the community and just kind of see what opportunities present themselves before I try to plan ahead and go whole hog in. Let's zoom into the area that I believe is going to be my kitchen garden. Okay, so I've zoomed in on just the house, barn, stables area. The previous owner had her garden placed right about here. She didn't grow a ton, but she did have some hoops out. Looks like she maybe did some beans and some grapes. This right here in sort of the middle is an old apple tree. I'm not sure how old it is exactly, but it is wildly overgrown. So I do look forward to pruning that back a bit this year. Unfortunately, this isn't the greatest satellite picture because, of course, you can see all of the shadow from this line of pine trees right here. I'm going to assume this clip came, pretty early in the morning. Obviously, early in the spring, the sun's going to be a lot lower. But I'm going to trust that since she invested time and space into growing here, that the sun is going to be great when we head into April, May, and of course the summer months. So this square is roughly what I plan building out, and it's huge, right? That's way more space than I have at my house property right now. Okay, so I'm going to have lots of space, but I don't want to go like whole hog and build in a huge system of raised beds and fencing and all of that good stuff right away. I want to see how the land works with me, how the weather works, how the sun falls, all of that good stuff. So I'm still going to grow a ton in containers, even though I've got all this big space to play with. I have deer to contend with that I've never had to contend with before. So deer is going to be a really interesting obstacle. Although I will have to say that I don't think the previous owner had a huge problem with the deer going after her garden because she didn't have any sort of fencing or anything like that up to keep them out. And it would appear that she was pretty conscious towards natural growing methods. So I'd like to think she didn't use a ton of chemicals to try to keep them away, as I also won't, but we never know. So I've chosen my 2 focus plants this year. If you don't know about focus plants in your experimental plant, go check out one of my beginner videos. I always encourage 2 focus plant and 1 experimental every year. My 2 focus plants for 2023 are going to be tomatoes and potatoes. I know, it's not original. It's a little boring, perhaps. But for me, the challenge is going to be taking what I know growing in a small area and seeing if I can make it much bigger in a larger area. So for tomatoes and potatoes, I specifically would like to attempt to grow what I need for a whole year. I feel kind of confident about that because I have grown both of those vegetables successfully the last couple of years, so I'm not super brand new to it, right? I gotta go bigger. So tomatoes and potatoes are gonna be my 2 focus plants, and my experimental plant this year is gonna be gherkins. I want to grow gherkin cucumbers so that I can make those cute little sweet gherkin pickles you buy in the store. I'm not like a huge pickle fan, like I don't eat all the pickles, and I'm not the super hugest cucumber fan, so I don't need plant upon plant upon plant of cucumbers, but I love those little bitty pickles, so it's gonna make it a really fun experiment for me. Here we go. Let's look at the garden planner. Okay, this is my garden planner. It's really just a big old spreadsheet that I color code and I reuse it each year so that I have saved historical data. This is really, really helpful for me, especially now during the planning phases. I'm really going to be moving to the property right at the same time that I would normally be really getting started with all of my seeds. I'd be planting my peppers, my tomatoes, everything that loves that hot summer sun would get started right at the same time as my move, which isn't super helpful, but it does mean that I'm not starting any plants here. I'm going to be starting everything out there. And that might feel a bit overwhelming, especially for the first few days when I have so much going on. But I'm also reminding myself I can go and buy starts at a nursery if I need to. I really can. I'm not going to let myself get too stressed out over planting a bunch of seeds and worrying about them not working out because I always have the nursery as a backup plan. So this is my chart. Everything is organized by month across the top. Everything in green is when I start planting something. Everything in yellow is when it is growing, and everything in orange is when I am harvesting. This has been phenomenally helpful to me, A, because I'm nerdy and I love spreadsheets, and B, because this is where I keep all my notes. So sweet corn did not do well when I planted it this early last year. So I leave myself a little note and I say, okay, maybe try it a little bit later next year. Peppers did great when I planted them this time, but they didn't do great when I planted them that time. So I'm going to kind of adjust so I just sort of adjust what I'm going to grow and when I'm going to grow it from there. And so then all of my notes are together. All the information is in one place. And what I realize is I'm really getting there in plenty of time to plant. Maybe I'm not getting peas out. We shall see what the weather looks like. But I'm still in plenty of time to get radishes, carrots, chard, beets, all of those things started in time. So that should not be an issue. Okay, seeds. Woo! So now we're doing seed planting for the farm. So I've got my planner up. I know what I'd like to grow, what I've grown in the past, and then I'm going to go through my seeds, see how much I have left, and start making a list of what I need to buy for the coming summer. For example, peppers. I have got tons of pepper seed. Tons and tons and tons, lots of varieties. I've also overwintered a couple pepper plants. I'm good. I'm good on the peppers. I'm going to just let them go by this year. That's okay. So we don't need a lot there, but I know that I need more tomatoes. Currently, I've got a couple of small variety seeds that I'm looking forward to trying, but in terms of the big daddies, I have got two that I grew last year that I'm going to grow again, a Big Mama hybrid from Burpee and then a San Marzano. Both did okay for different reasons. The San Marzano was definitely the winner, but the Big Mama had the really big fruit. I am excited to try these again in the new environment just to see if I can get a little better, if I have any change. In addition to these two though, I'm going to be looking for one slicer variety. I'm not a huge slicer tomato gal, but it has been recommended that I at least have one in the bunch for a depth of flavor. I am in. And then I'm going to look at one more pasting variety. So that's what I do. I go through each one. I know for sure I need some carrot and some beet seeds. I went all through my golden beet seeds from last year. I'm also probably also probably going to pick up a couple more parsnip seeds because I just love them. But I do need lots of carrots. So carrots are going to go on my list. I've got a couple varieties picked out. I have grown Danvers and Speedo in the past, and both worked well for me. I've also grown kaleidoscope carrots in the past, and those never did well for me. Heat intolerant, I think. Another variety that I'm going to try this year is the navel variety from Territorial Seed Company. I like that everything just stays in. Everything just stays in, and even if it spills around in there, it's all in the same little box. Okay, so for the potatoes, I am going to purchase starter potato sets. So I think they usually come in like, what, 2-pound bags or something like that. I'm going to try the red Pontiac again because I've grown those for years and I just love them. This year I'm also going to try Yukon Golds, and I think my third one is going to be German Butterball, but I haven't totally decided. So if you have a potato variety that you super love, throw it in the comments. I would love to hear about it. So I got a lot of potatoes that I need to order. I have tons of herbs. I have tons of flowers. Think of all the flowers I'm going to be able to grow. I think for my own mental sanity, I'm going to stay away from brassicas this year, except for cabbage. I had a couple of wonderful cabbage varieties last year that I'm going to get a couple more of this year because they just were really super yummy. So that's what I do. I go through each little book. I'm looking at their different characteristics. I'm looking for what's going to fit in my zone and also what's going to fit my gardening style. You know, when you're looking at your catalogs, there's always tons of cool stuff in here, right? And they always put novelty items in and things like that. And sometimes it's easy to go, ooh, look at how pretty that one is. I bet I can grow it. Check it off and you buy it and you didn't even really look at the description. I personally, I like to look for things like disease resistance. I look for heirloom seeds. I look for easy producers. Even though I'd like to think I'm a pretty attentive gardener, life gets busy and I'm going to have a house and a farm to try to clean up and manage. So I'm going to look for varieties that are going to be a little bit easier on the maintenance side. So last but not least, I am going to try to keep a very open mind about this whole process. I'm going to take it easy. I'm going to take it slow. I'm not going to worry so much about numbers this year. I just want to establish a good garden for our own eating and learn from the land. But I've got a lot to do before I can get there. Thanks for coming along while I do a little bit of planning. I'm going to go spend some money on some seeds, and I sure do love you, and I'm going to talk to you real soon, okay? Bye.